If you're out there shopping for a new 2022 through 2024 Toyota Tundra, the third gen, and you're kind of curious what are the known problems, what to expect when you buy this truck, what's going to happen, well, we have the details for you. Hey, it's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and this is a shout out to my friends over at tundras.com who got me going on this idea. And I'll explain the story. And in this video, I'll show you all the details, information we have, plus video of some of these problems that people are seeing in their Toyota Tundra trucks. It's gonna be a long video. Sit back, pop top, whatever you want to put in your coffee. It's gonna be a good one, but it's maybe a little bit long. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over to pickuptrucktalk.com to kick things off. And you'll find the story. I'm move my screen here up a minute. You'll find the story on the homepage. Plus, I'll put a link in the description below, and I'll put it in the comments and all kind of stuff we do. And it's right here. It's 2022, 2024 Toyota Tundra known problems. We kind of put it all together in those model years. And so what this came from was my forum, forum.pickuptrucktalk.com. Look at that. Another plug for the forum. I got tagged by a person over here who reached out and said, hey, why are you not covering this big issue they're having, the engine failure issue? And we'll get more details in that a little bit. But I started digging into this over here at tundras.com. I'll show you the screen. And lots of information was coming from this forum and other forums. And I said, hey, would you guys just please put together a list of all information, all the known problems you have, and I'll put a spotlight on this. I'll do a video. I did a website post, as we talked about, and I'll kind of make a lot of noise about this and get more attention to these issues, which is what I'm doing now. So, and by the way, if you're a forum out there, a Ford forum, GM forum, whatever forum you have, and you have a similar idea like this, hit me up. Hit me on the forum or email me at tim@pickuptrucktalk.com. And so I got all the information from these guys at the forum. And so we talked about things. And so we've kind of come with this list that was it's pretty more in depth than I've done in the past. So I typically do known problem lists because I find them very interesting to know what's going on from real ownership versus what I do reviews of or what I own. What are people seeing? And I usually get them from websites like Consumer Reports or like NHTSA, carcomplaints.com. But this is direct feedback from enthusiasts and owners. And so let's go ahead and talk about these issues. So the first, we have major, then I had minor, major than issues and minor. The first one's the major ones: tire wear, excessive outside edge wear. Now this is specifically to the Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, specifically. 3 syllables, can't say it. It's a more pronounced issue. Some non-TRD Pro have a fast wear on the outside of the tread, as well as the whole tread. This supposedly was resolved with a new alignment spec. And so there was some back and forth, and my gentleman by the name of Jason Sparks reached out to me. And he's got this photo of this tire here with excessive wear on the outer side. But he also sent me an email and cloud information that's full of different issues he's had and different things going on with the truck. But I want to play this one because this one actually is perfect. This talks about it. Jason.
Okay, this is the front driver's side tire. Passenger side is very similar. See how that edge is just rounded and there's no tread here. Okay, we go to the back tire. Now this is the second round of these tires being on the front because at 5,000 they were rotated, at 10,000 they were rotated back. Here's the rear. So it's less, but you can still see like right here where it's rounding in a way that it shouldn't.
Okay, so those are his tires. That's going on with those. And they're really excessive wear. I mean, that little mileage and those tires are already kind of going bold. What's interesting is on the forum on tundras.com, there was a whole thread on this. And I went and looked through it, and Falcon. Now, Falcon is the tire manufacturer that builds that TRD Pro tire specifically. That word. Post a response pointing to Toyota's alignment specs are the problem. And they said, from what we have seen on alignment specs spreading around the forum and Facebook groups, Toyota has set some positive camber to the front suspension, which caused the appearance that the tires are slanted in at the bottom, causing excessive shoulder wear on the tires. Now, Jason is talking to me, and he's got some back and forth with Falcon, back and forth with Toyota. He's at this point. And those tires were taken at just 15,012 miles. So I would call that pretty excessive for that kind of mileage. So that's one of the first issues. The second issue we have is throttle lag, hesitation, and surge concerns. Now, this is a pretty interesting issue. It affects, there's a TSB out on it, technical service bulletin, that the forum linked to. And then we have a known issue from prior generations of vehicles, the V385A, the engine they pointed out. And they talked about a memory reset, solved the issue for a while. They've talked about different drive modes in the forum, and the cause of concern because some have had accidents. And what's interesting is, I'll pull up this one specifically because this was if I can find it real fast. Okay, here it is. I found it. So this issue happened to this gentleman. He basically was making a left lane turn. He came to an almost stop, and then he tried to give it gas. The truck didn't move. The pedal was just flat. It didn't move at all. He had to put it back into park, turn it on, turn it off, and then it cycled through and started driving. This is an extreme case of this. Okay, this is an extreme case of the known problems of the throttle lag. That could have been just a glitch or whatever. What the other people are saying is a similar idea in that if you are, okay, I'll make this full screen here and we'll talk a little more about this. So what most people are saying is it doesn't really matter always what drive mode. Some Tundras are affected, some Tundras are not affected by this. But the idea here is if you're at a direct four-way stop or a stop sign, you come to a dead stop, and you go ahead and put some throttle, you put some the throttle down, put the pedal down, right? So you get going. There isn't just a little hesitation. It just seems like it takes a little bit for the truck to get moving. This is before the turbos kick in. It just kind of feels like a lot of dead weight trying to get it moving forward. And many owners talk about this. Some have had their ECMs, their computers reflashed, taking care of this. Some just drive in sport mode, some drive in tow haul mode. And interesting, in my world, we kind of call this turbo lag. It's the amount of time it takes from when you get off the line to when the turbos kick in. That's the way I've always thought of it. And this is a little bit different thing because it's a little bit throttle hesitation. Now, like I said, not every truck is having this. It's just kind of interesting it comes up. And it probably just has to do with a software reflash or something. They're going to have to monitor the engine a little bit, see what problems they have. There's probably some issues with the transmission shifting a little bit. They can probably hold first gear a little bit longer and get people offline until the turbos are able to kick in. As you know, turbocharged engines, they have to spool a little bit to get enough power to get going. So it's an interesting issue. I've heard a few people talk about it. Some people have had some safety concerns like that gentleman had with his truck. And yeah, it seems like there's going to be some TSBs because you also have the Sequoia on the same engine. The Tacoma I've driven recently didn't have the new Tacoma. I didn't have I never had an experience of that. I did own a 2022 Toyota Tundra, like I said, and said or maybe known prior videos. I didn't have any. I never thought of it that way. I never had an issue with that. I'm hoping eventually to get the new 2024 and do some stop sign stuff and see if I can replicate the issue. But that was an interesting one. So other issues, other known problems. We'll go back to the form. The driver's side seat trim. This is pretty interesting. So there's the seat trim in my truck as well as the new chief engineer's truck has cracked. And it's cracked right, and I'll show you a picture. It's cracked along the trim on the driver's side. It's like driver left butt cheek, right? So when you get in and out of the truck, if you happen to slide across that seat numerous times, in my case, before I put running boards on, eventually I could hear some cracking. And it was just thin plastic. And so what they have is they've upgraded this piece. They have a new, thicker piece. You can see right there, if I can see my mouse, but there's a thicker piece right in the middle that's supposed to prevent cracking. I have seen and I've heard of several people having an issue with the new piece as well. Not as many, but some people have broken the updated trim, as we pointed out here. At one time, there was 4,000 of these parts back ordered because they first came out. People just started cracking them right away, and so they reinforced it. And I'd be interested to see if they do another reinforcement, maybe in a refresh version of the Tundra coming by 2025. Okay, now looking at more things. Driver's side seat thigh support. It happens to Platinum 794 and Capstone. It gets stuck or will not function. Many have had it replaced. Okay. Now, another issue, rear window seals and trim. There was no issue of a technical service, a Toyota Tech Tip, which is different than a TSB. This is a Tech Tip let's look at. Trim is only attached via double-sided tape, no clips, affecting both rear, driver, and passenger sides. I did a video on this, which I'll probably link above. And what that does is the weather stripping trim comes along the inside of the window. It doesn't meet. There's a little gap. And it even includes the 2023 model as well I drove. Interestingly enough, the Toyota Tacoma, the 2024 Toyota Tacoma, doesn't have this issue. They've put a big piece of rubber over top of that connecting those two pieces. And so you just need a piece of rubber covering. It just doesn't look good. It makes you have questions about water intrusion. Just makes you have lots of questions about the quality of your truck overall. I didn't like it when I had the Tundra. My 2022 Tundra had a problem. I did a video on it. You guys watched the heck of the video. I just didn't like it. Okay, now, infotainment issues, Bluetooth connectivity issues, CarPlay Android Auto lag issues, CarPlay Auto delay, and there have been some updates to the system. There's also an issue here that Jason had pointed out, which I can't play because he's got some music background. But basically, what he has is he's got, if I go back, the screen goes blank. He's got that PIN number that pops up. A lot of times, some of those videos I've watched was after the subscription ended. So if you don't know, this Tundra and a lot of trucks going forward, they want you to have a subscription to use certain services inside the vehicle, like navigation. And so he's had some issues with that. So that's something to keep an eye on. I haven't been a big fan of the infotainment system. I actually did quite a few videos and feedback with Toyota engineers and actually improved the system based on my feedback. And here I am again giving more feedback. It just keeps needing to be improved. It just keeps being little headaches here and there. And it seems like that's yet another headache. Okay, another issue is going to be squealing brakes, front and rear, especially bad when it's cold outside. This is it's not a maintenance issue. It's not a huge thing. It doesn't sound great. And squealing with those brakes. And HVAC, the whole system, a lot of people have talked about this. And I don't know that I made a big deal about this. I did make a big deal about the heated steering wheel. It wasn't as hot as I wanted it to be. But I've seen a lot of people in the forums talking about the HVAC system. They don't feel like it works really well. They feel like it's barely any airflow. Auto doesn't work very well. Low airflow on AC or heat. They want a more powerful fan in there. So that going to be a major issue that's going to impact your ownership experience? It may just piss you off. It's something that they could just redo real fast as far as a refresh version, get a new fan in there, or change up the settings of the fan. I'm not really sure, but that could be an issue. Now, major issues affecting some Toyota Tundras. Okay, this is some, not all. The next list, so engine failures. This is what got me initially into the Tundras forum. I've heard somebody on Facebook talk about it. I've been in a few Facebook groups. I'm kind of around different places. Instagram. My friend Doug gets me on Instagram sometimes. And this has been talked about. And my issue with it wasn't, as we said, suspected rate of failure is less than 0.5%. It's a small number. What we have so far is we have 45 owners who've had full engine replacements. And what they suspect is a bad batch of bearings upon first failures. So there's one guy who had 2 engines replaced, but most people I've seen had 40 out of the 45 had just 1 engine replaced. We're looking at probably it's been suggested it's poor cleaning of cylinder blocks, supplier issue, something's going on there that just had a bad run. Had a bad run of trucks. The last known failure build month was February 2023. Again, this is information from the forum. And there does seem to have been one 2024 model with engine failure. They're waiting to get more information from the owner. But it seems like there was a bad batch of supplies. We've seen this with the GM vehicles, engine lifter issues with those. It was a bad run of parts that caused a lot of that problems. This is a pretty big issue because the repair bills are north of $30,000 for a new engine. And so far, Toyota, from what I understand from the Tundras group, is that initial owners had a heck of a time getting service. And now that Toyota knows it's a known issue, they're replacing those engines, no problem. It seems like that's an easy fix there. All the engines have been under warranty so far. I reached out to Toyota corporate as the forum asked me to, and I was happy to. Reached out to the PR team, and I did not get a response. And this is not unusual. Most manufacturers, Chevy, Ford, GM, all of them have the same kind of idea. They don't respond to requests from me for comment on a known issue or an engine failure, something major. It's a lawsuit issue. It really what it comes down to. A lot of lawsuits get filed. If they admit there's a problem, if they admit there's not a problem, either way, it's really hard to get a response back from Toyota PR because of those liability issues. Now, I can tell you, as based on the wastegate issue that we had early on when the truck was launched, I know a lot of engineers get really upset, like Toyota engineers get really upset, red in the face, pissed off when something like this happens because it's bad in their reputation. They want to build a vehicle that lasts for a while. Reliability is a core fundamental thing of Toyota. It's one of their core ideals. And so this is a huge issue for them. And I feel like they've probably identified the ones that went through the batch. They've serviced those already, or they're looking for more. I mean, it's kind of where they're at is what happened. Again, remember the wastegate was a huge issue and had lots of recalls. I said it wasn't that big of a deal. It took a lot of heat over that, but it turned out to be not that big of a deal. I think this is about the same realm. Unfortunately, if you have one of these trucks, it sucks because you're going to be in the shop. You're going to take the cab off, which the cab off is pretty typical these days of full-size trucks. You're going to look bad. You're going to have the whole thing replaced. It can cause you a lot of concern about should you still buy it, own it? Should you still drive it? Should you still buy one? I mean, lots of questions come up in that realm. I think it probably is a small issue that will be affected a small number of owners that will be done. That they'll learn from this. They'll get better. They're going to get every time. It's Toyota's got a thing called Kaizen. It's the continual improvement, and so they'll probably learn from this and make their products and processes better. Another issue that come up was wind noise. This was a really frustrating thing for my friend TRD John. He has a YouTube channel. You can check it out over there. I put a link down there. Originally suspected to be related to power folding mirror. And what they think now is it's door seals and mirrors. So TRD John had all of his seals replaced around his passenger mirror or passenger door, and that solved the issue. It's just the wind would come in there, rattle that window, and just wouldn't stay very secure. And it really, over time, would bug him. And I remember talking to him last week at an event in person, and he was like, "Yeah," he goes, you're just sitting in the truck, even after it got fixed, you're still listening for it because it drove you that noise drove you so nuts. Even radio up and all kind of stuff, you just still listen for it. So, just created that concern. Inaccurate fuel gauge. This was kind of interesting. So there was some issues with the fuel gauge where, like, if you parked on a hill, it would change the fuel overnight, and things were just varying quite a bit. And so there was an TSB issued. Its update has a large recurrence issue, so it keeps popping up. And there was some discussion about Toyota was thinking about adding another sensor in the fuel tank for 2024 model year, and yet those owners reported the same issue. So it seems like there's still issue with going on the fuel gauge. It's not quite operating correctly on a slope, not on a slope. It's just seeing quite a few issues there. Excessive rear brake wear. Now, these people had said that needing rear brake calipers or needing your new rear brakes at less than 20,000 miles. In some cases, less than 10,000 miles. A few had stuck brake calipers. Tough word for me to say. Calipers. But yeah, so there's an issue going on there. This, again, some, not all. Tailgate paint wear around rear spoiler. Not present in all trucks. Several new trucks and dealers' lots have the same issue. So former member Matthew Edward Ferris, the pirate, nice guy, had this issue on his TRD Pro, and he sent some photos. So he's got these paint wearing spots. You can see where it's top of the tailgate. There's a plastic spoiler there. And then I'll zoom in here. I'll show you the zoomed in photo, and it's right there. Is it a major issue? No. Does it affect some trucks? Yeah. Does it look bad? Yeah. And when you spend, again, $70,000-$80,000 for some of these trucks, I mean, you don't want that to happen immediately. You want to feel good about your purchase for a long period of time. So that's an interesting issue there. Interior rattling, clicking, and plastic noises. There was a lot of this when it first came out. I remember TRD John had an issue with the center console, kept moving back and forth, wasn't really fit well. Headliner rattle, known in previous models, has to do a certain clip. It was interesting because Toyota vehicles are known to not have these issues, and have the issue in the Tundra was kind of surprising. So it's probably just a little more QDR, little quality things they have to go through and make sure, see what owners are experiencing and fix those issues. The front window run causing window shutter. Window run gets dirty and needs to be cleaned. The window will shutter up and down and will be resolved and come back. So this is interesting that there's an issue with the front window that's having some shutter issues. What's interesting is when I went over to, again, back to Jason Sparks, he has a phantom issue with his rear window, and I'm going to scroll all the way down and find the video. This is his blank screen playing it for his infotainment system. He has some issues with that.
Check this out. Yeah, window won't roll up. That's filling the auto. All right, let's just hold it up and see if it'll go up that way. Nope. Yeah, window just won't roll up. Let's roll it all the way down. Okay. Oh, there it went again. Yeah. Same window's had this problem a few times before. Let's try it again. Oh, nope. Oh, there we go. 40 seconds to get the window rolled up.
Yeah, 40 seconds, window rolled up. That's a bit of a problem. And I agree. That's definitely frustrating. Now, if you recall, on the 2022 Toyota Tundra I drove home from Houston, as I was driving it, the power window button would just rattle, and just when it just didn't do its job, it clicked a lot. And they actually sent in some engineers up to my little small town and looked at it, and it was basically a piece of trim that had expanded in the door that was setting off the window actuator. And it's funny because the more I left Houston, which is hot and humid, and got up north where it's cold, it started really impacting it more and more. So it just was a weird kind of spot in that placement of that door, causing the actuator to have an issue. So I know they've resolved that one, but here's another one they may have to look at as well. I'm not sure what's going on with Jason's truck, but there's, again, more people are talking about some issues with the windows. Minor issues affecting some owners. Now, there's a minor issue here, JBL sound system. And we moved it down to minor because it doesn't really impact the driving of the vehicle, but it doesn't impact the enjoyment of the vehicle. Now, people are saying that the mediocre sound for the price increase, uneven sound levels, and low end bass, heavily balanced toward front door speakers. Subwoofer seems to be doing nothing. Construction's lapel with small magnets in all speakers. I had a JBL sound system. I didn't experience that, but I'm not an audiophile. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you're an audiophile, may want to just skip the JBL system and go with your own, apparently. But I didn't have any impact. Again, not an audiophile. I'm going to leave that one alone. Transmission failure replacement, low numbers of failures. 2 to 3 reported, might be as high as 6 or 7. There's multiple posts from 2024 owners needing a replacement within the first 500 miles. That's a little scary. The 10-speed has been a really good transmission for them so far. I hadn't heard of this before, but they're experiencing some owners talking about this. There's some issues with door molding breaking off. Originally thought to be poor alignment from factory for the higher trim levels. Passenger side panel view monitor panel coming off. The PVM monitor will pop off as you're driving. That's not something great. There's a couple of people have talked about a 12-volt battery replacement. Already had the battery replaced. It's kind of crazy. Volume knobs breaking on the 14-inch infotainment system. That's just a weird one. Pretty good size volume knobs. Not sure why they'd break. Rear differential whine. So there's a known issue of the vehicle. It's not uncommon in Toyota. The start-stop system has some quirks. Will stop and immediately restart when going to park. Doesn't always activate based on climate control settings. So it just seems a little quirky. I don't know. It seems like people are having some quirkiness with that system. That's an EPA kind of credited system. All automakers offer a start-stop. They don't offer a way to disable it because that's their agreement with the EPA to get the credit. They cannot have a defeatable start-stop system. Every time you get in, you have to press the start-stop button, turn it on, turn it off. So a small issue there. Okay. Wow, that didn't go as long as I thought it was going to go. I was ready to go for about an hour. But that's what I have for you today. What issues have you seen? What issues did I not cover? Put them down below. I'll make sure I add them to our full list. That way we all can be informed consumers. Another shout out to my friends at tundras.com. They did a great job putting this list together, and we kind of did some back and forth on this to make sure we had all the right information and we got it covered as best we could. So I know Toyota engineers are watching this video. Here's a to-do list for you. Hopefully we find some solutions for future owners, and then their vehicles can be even better when they take the new truck home. Because I had fun by Tundra. It was good. Yeah, I had a good time with it. So for more videos like this one and others, check them out over here. Website down below as well, pickup-truck-talk.com. I'll put the description and I'll put that link to that known issues in there. It has links to that Tundra's forum as well. Check those guys out over there. As always, thanks for watching. I will see you down the road.